anyway, we're going to turn it over to Rafsan. He's going to teach us how to build a virtual agent. And I'm excited.
I'm excited for this.
So let me share my screen. All right. Yes, we will be talking about agents. I think they are super cool. We are seeing more and more agents are coming. They're very powerful. In fact, some industry leaders thinking that agents can replace SaaS applications in 2 or 3 years. This is not from me. This is from Microsoft's CEO, Satya Nadella. So, but if we think about the capabilities, I don't know exactly in 2 or 3 years, but agents are way to go. And we will learn a little bit about today. All right, let me come here. So first, let's understand AI agents. What are they, when we are supposed to use? Then what's Copilot Studio? Because there are a lot of changes that just happened past 2 years to Copilot Studio. It's more AI tool rather than low-code, no-code tool. And we will do demo. Demo will be hands-on. If you want, you can follow along. So let's start with agents. What are AI agents? We hear everywhere, right? So AI agents are actually software applications, but they use large language models as an engine, and they have ability to connect different tool sets to automate tasks, to do multiple concurrent activities using certain actions based on the user input and also environmental factors that they perceive. And environmental factors here is basically what environment the agent performs. For example, if we are building travel agent, its environment is travel. If we are building, for example, project management agent, its environment is project management. That's how we train our data set, right? So the tool that I believe most of people are familiar already, it's Copilot Studio. It's one of the Power Platform component, and it's end-to-end SaaS solution to build AI agents. That can be retrieval agents, that can be task-based agents, and that can be also autonomous agents. And one of the key benefits of Microsoft Copilot Studio is its ability to connect, first of all, like natively to Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and also leveraging other Power Platform connectors to connect to external services and applications. Awesome. By the way, also, before it used to called Power Virtual Agents, I tried to use, I would say 3 years ago. It was very limited because you had to create multiple topics, you had to define everything, and as you can imagine, that was a lot of work. But now AI takes a lot of this hard work from us so that we can focus on more system prompting and basically identifying the right use cases. So to use Copilot Studio in your organizational settings, so you will need to have a proper license. But luckily, we have Copilot Studio trial from Microsoft. So if you want, you can go ahead and sign up. To sign up, you will need your organizational or work or school account to sign up and try Copilot Studio. I will paste this in the chat if you want to try.
I have a question.
Yes.
How long is the trial?
I believe 90 days, but you can still extend it. So after 90 days, you receive an email that, hey, your trial expires, but you can extend it.
Okay.
All right. So let's say we signed up. Now we have access to Copilot. So this is Microsoft Copilot Studio homepage. This chat experience you more or less get in Power Automate, Power Apps. So in Power Apps, you use a Copilot to build low-code, no-code applications. In Power Automate, you use to build cloud flows, or even in desktop RPA solutions. But here, you can use natural language to create the agents. Let me also provide some overview of the navigation panel here. So in the Create tab, you can create a new agent, and you can also see if there are any relevant templates for you, you can go ahead and use. Besides this, I always recommend using these templates, at least in the beginning, because there are a lot of good information that you can learn from these templates, like how topics are organized, how the ending happens, etc. And you can always click and create new agent here. Agents here will show all the agents that I built, and you can also import agent. By the way, to create a Copilot Studio, logic is the same. We are supposed to create solutions in Power Apps, and in Power Apps solution, there is a chatbot there where you can create the agents, because guess what? We are still going to use Power Platform pipelines here. So if you are really building enterprise-grade agents, make sure that you leverage solution concept in Power Platform as well as use pipelines. So that concept stays the same. The flows, this is completely new. So I believe they launched this like 2 weeks ago. Before, to add an action, you had one way, for example, go to add agent level action, and you would also create the Power Automate flows. That means you would need to go to Power Automate. But here, to create a new agent, you can describe the agent within Copilot Studio, and that would allow you to create cloud flows here. The similar experience we get, but this makes easy so that we don't have to switch their tools. And the library, this is actually called tools now. I don't know why I don't see the update here. This will allow us to use different tool set within Copilot Studio. And if you click these 3 dots, you will see other Power Platform components, other solutions, and you can also use Copilot SDK if you are building agents for if you are extending your Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot. You can also use Azure OpenAI and as well as Azure AI Foundry. So let's go ahead and create an agent. To create an agent, as I said, we will use the natural language. So I typically use this, but sometimes this is not enough. I create the prompts in M365 Copilot using the Markdown language, because that helps the agent better understand the prompts. So here, all we need to start interacting with the agent. For example, one use case a lot of organizations that have, basically, when you roll out a big software, you are supposed to create a lot of user guides. And sometimes you have 2,000, 3,000 users, right? They are busy. They don't have time to read your 100-page user guide. So what they do, they bombard your team with a lot of questions. And if you are a development team member, that means that every time you get the question, you spend between 15 to 20 minutes to answer those questions. So you are actually wasting your precious time. So we can build agent to take care of those kind of questions. We can provide the end user UI experience, or we can also provide the kind of trigger autonomous experience, so that when they send an email to our development team, that will trigger agent will look at our user guide, generate the response, and reply back to the user. So this is gonna be completely I would say no human. Of course, there is always a ways we can add human, but in this case, I will not. So here I will say you are an operations team agent helping users with their inquiries about, let's say, the application that we rolled out. There's a fictional application, my app. Okay, I just put my prompt here. And if you look at the right side, now you are seeing that based on simple instructions, it is actually fine-tuning it and it making better so that agent can understand. So great, now let's determine a name for the agent. How about my operations assistant? I probably have the same name, so I'll say, no, just use my operations. My app operations, or maybe customer support agent. I can send. Now let's refine the instructions for the my app. For example, first let's define what the agent should do. For example, agent should assist users with inquiries about my app, provide information about features, troubleshoot issues, and guide users through processes. So you can see actually those prompts fine-tuned and it's getting better. So I can say, yes, that is good. Sometimes users might send you an email using triggers, and you will look at your knowledge sources, create a response, and use send an email action to reply them back. So we will make this better, but as you can see, we are actually providing instructions. So that's the key for agents. Whatever we do in agents, we have to provide instructions in natural language. That's how orchestration understand the name, description, etc. Yeah, go ahead, Katie. You're on mute, Katie.
I'm looking at how you're prompting it, and if I'm new to the Power Platform, how would I even know to use words like trigger and send an email action?
So if you are first time in Copilot Studio, probably you will not need to build autonomous agents, because right now I'm trying to build autonomous agents. So that's why it's important to understand those concepts and features and be clear, because you might have multiple complex features within one solution. So agent needs to know each of them, their names, their description, so that it can define the best actions.
Would you be able to ask, would you go out to another Copilot and ask like what trigger or how do I make it do this to help you get the correct verbiage to feed into your Copilot? Or
of course there is a little bit learning curve, right?
Right.
The learning curve is like we need to understand the key capabilities of Copilot Studio. And we will also see it here. Once I start this, I'll finish this. I'm going to finish this in a second. And we will see, okay, actions are there, triggers there, and there are like some description. So Amy, that's a great question. One of the key benefits of Copilot Studio, its ability to connect our own data. That's one of the reasons that we are building agents, because we want to make sure agent ground its knowledge on our own data, not the random LLM or internet, right? So as you can see, you can continue doing that and it will get them better and better. But this time you can also skip configure. I'm gonna go do that, and I will also bring my own prompt sample and you will see them in more detail. So I will click skip to configure. So this is the agent name. Perfect. I'm gonna click, and from here I will add this image. Perfect. So description, it added instructions, it also added some starter prompts. So if you are building agents, starter prompts are going to be one of the ways that you basically help your users understand the agent's purposes and save time for them. If they ask the same questions and again, you might just create a starter prompt so that every time they open the chat, they can just click and get the answer quickly. So instead of these instructions, I will bring my own instructions and you will see the details there, because if you want to build really comprehensive agents, we need to pay attention to agent instructions. So I'm going to paste it here. All right.
Amy has another question.
All right, so let me go back. Yeah, I think that's the same question, right, hey, Amy? How do you point the agent that need to know?
More or less. What I was thinking, my use case was, I've done a lot of ServiceNow implementations, and in ServiceNow you've got an actual knowledge base, right? Where, like you were saying, if you're doing a rollout of a service catalog, but the organization has no clue how to use a service catalog, so how do I self-service myself? Blah blah blah. Like all those KBs and those knowledge articles. Like how do you tell said Mr. Agent here, I want you to go look at the ServiceNow knowledge base, like how? So that's kind of where, I don't know if you really answered my question or if you're going to answer my question.
No,
that's my use case.
That's actually a knowledge base. That's called knowledge. So after this, first we need to define the instructions, and then we will add the knowledge. And the knowledge basically could be your ServiceNow tickets, knowledge, SharePoint, files, Dataverse, SharePoint list. So that's defined, and I will also explain. So here is my description. The agent helps users with their inquiries about my app, providing information about the features, troubleshooting issues, guiding users through the process, and responding to emails using triggers and knowledge sources. And here is the purpose. And I use Markdown because that makes easier for agents to understand. This is the headline. If you scroll bottom, you will see this is the key. The instructions are the way for helping agents to determine its behavior. And if you look at here, instructions, I'm saying trigger. The agent is triggered when an email is received with the subject line "My App Question." And when we define the trigger, you will see I will put that there. Steps: email analysis. Detect the trigger based on the subject line "My App Question." So if that's my email, I don't want to always agent reply my emails. I want specifically agent reply to emails that if there is my app question. And that can come from the subject line, that can come from the body. Information retrieval. Access the agent's knowledge source, Amy, as you mentioned, this can be ServiceNow, to gather relevant information that addresses the user's question about my app. Then response generation. Craft a clear and informative email response based on the retrieved information. Ensure the response is accurate and helpful. Then send an email. Use the send an email response action to respond to user with the crafted answer. And I also provide the example flow here, workflow. This is kind of fine tuning, right? We are not only giving the agent instructions, we are also providing agent with the, this is the example workflow that you can follow. And at the end, I put here notes: ensure the information retrieved from the knowledge sources up to date and accurate, maintain a professional tone and helpful tone in all communication. Once I'm done, I can just click create. And this takes just a couple of minutes, and we have agent. And we will go ahead and start adding more features, more capabilities, like its own data source, its own actions, etc. So let's go ahead and take a look.
I had another quick question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Amy.
It's kind of going back to the basics. So funny enough, I'm looking to purchase a new laptop, and it's a Lenovo, and it has said, oh, this comes with like Windows 11 and Copilot. And I'm like, what? So when you put that link in to get a trial, do these applications that when you brought up the Copilot Studio over there, these applications are within the Copilot? So
no.
No, I didn't think so. I was like, aren't they separate entities?
So yes, that's a great question because
I was confused. So I'm like, I'm trying to figure out like what's the connection there.
Copilot Studio is a web-based application like Power Apps. So you don't have to install into your laptop. So open your Google or Edge browser and then type copilotstudio.microsoft.com, and there you go. You have your Copilot Studio. So it's not like a desktop-based application. Copilot you are talking about, it's more like Microsoft typically calls it generative AI services Copilot. There are hundreds of Copilots. There's
like ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT is kind of open AI model. That's also the same model behind Copilot. And that Copilot is like how you would use. You see, like this is the one.
Yep.
I don't have that much information about the Copilot we are talking about, but I assume that's going to be the same as Copilot in Bing, where you would ask your questions, it would look at the internet and generate answer for you.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. That's why I was kind of like confused. Like, wait, I just wanted to get clear.
No. Copilot Studio is license based. So
okay, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yes. And,
I was like, because I couldn't understand why they were marketing it that way, and I'm like, but Copilot, like AI, like generative AI, is just like you can get that on any browser. I don't understand why they're marketing the computer that way. But anyway, sorry, I digressed. I just wanted to clarify what the Copilot Studio was and how you're getting all those apps.
Yeah.
So
Copilot
it is a
Studio,
license, purchase license.
Copilot Studio is the tool to create your own Copilot style agents. Like if I go to Copilot in Bing, that's grounded on its own knowledge sources like trained data set, right? It can help me in many use cases, but it doesn't necessarily know my data. Using Copilot Studio, you can bring your data from ServiceNow, and then users can interact. So you
can do an API call out to those other databases.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That offers a lot of clarity. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So because this is a new tool and everyone gets very excited because I think this is a revolutionary tool. I'll be honest with you. So if you look at now on the overview, we have details like agent description, general instructions, the orchestration. They rolled out a couple of months ago. This is true AI capability. It means that when you configure your agent and when you turn this on, agent, when it interacts with users, it will do its own planning. It's not going to necessarily look at all the steps. It will look at its own environment and the user input and will determine the best action, and which we will review it together. Okay, I see one question. And the price is it licensed per person creating the agent for the organization or for each user of any? No. So Stephen, that's a great question. So if you are a developer, or Microsoft calls these people most of the time makers, so you will need a license. And some organizations, for example, you would even need managed environments where you would have different environments like dev environment, QA environment, and production environment. So as a developer, you will need a license, but the end users, they will not need license to use this. But also the license can be a little complicated because it's Microsoft licensing. The messaging here is important. How many message you consume. For example, if your users interact more with your agents, that means that agent provides more generative answers, and that consumes more. So sometimes you get like certain number of messages. If you consume all of them, that will stop agent creating the answers. So that's why most of the organizations are now moving to pay as you go. So the more you use, the more you pay. The less you use, the less you pay. All right, so let's go ahead, and so that's why I typically turn this on, because this is very powerful feature. That means that all the instructions I put here, agent will look at this and plan the next steps. If you turn this on, then agent will look at your topics, and topics are the conversational passes. So in the beginning, in the Power Virtual agents, you would create different topics. For example, one topic for store hours, one topic for, let's say, weather, or any topic that you would have, right? And you would add key phrases, and agent look at those topic key phrases and determine the right topics. But if you turn this on, agent will use its own knowledge, own or instructions based on the user instructions, and determine the best actions. The knowledge here, if you look at here, when you create first time, it is the generative AI is enabled. That means that if I ask question, for example, tell me about PMI Tucson Chapter, I can just hit. By the way, this is the orchestration. Now it's actually, okay, it seems like you might be looking for information about PMI Tucson Chapter. Unfortunately, I can only assist with questions related to the new project intake application, my app. If you have any questions, even though I turn this on, it still looks at my instructions and it is hesitating to answer. The reason, because I'm providing the answers. Now, if I come back here and turn this off, which I always turn that off because I don't see any reason why we need like a large language models own training data, right? We need our own training data. So, and now if I look at here, I can say, for example, I will just ask this question again. Tell me about, let's say, PMI. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to help with that. Can you rephrase? Because I turned that on. Because here, I want to have my own data, which I can easily add here. I can add, click add a knowledge. Amy, this is for you. So this can come from public websites. This can come from your SharePoint. And SharePoint is very interesting because you can bring your SharePoint site URL, or you can look at browse files. You can look at specific folders. You can even drill through and look at specific files. You determine it. But of course, there is a data preparation. So we can't just feed AI with any random data, or, we have to follow the RAG patterns or retrieval augmented generation so that AI can understand our agent to do the semantic indexing. I will cancel this. This can come from Dataverse. We can also upload our own files. And if you look at the advanced, we can use Azure AI Search. This is really good if you want to do RAG. This can come from Azure SQL, Salesforce, ServiceNow Catalog. Amy, this is for you. Maybe next week you can test this out. And ServiceNow knowledge, ServiceNow tickets, Zendex. But that's not all, because we know that we have access to Power Automate. We can use Power Automate, which in the actions part, I will show it to you, to bring those data inside Copilot Studio so that we can use as a knowledge source. So right now, my data, let me click Browse. I will look at my app here. here is the file.
Thank you.
I take this, but what's very important here, we need to describe the name and description. That's how AI looks at our file, understands the purpose. I'm just gonna click user guide for my app, and this is a basic description. I will just delete that. This knowledge source searches information contained in user guide for my app when the users ask about my app questions. You can be more, detailed. Just provide as much as information you have. The reason, because this is not only one file. You might have 10 files. You might have other data sources, right? How AI can determine which knowledge sources it needs to check. So it only looks at the name and description. That also applies to Dataverse as well. So if you are going to use the Dataverse as a knowledge source, you need to determine each column. There's a description box there. As a developers, we typically ignore that, I know, but if you are trying to build agents that are looking at Dataverse, then we need to define table, columns, everything so that agent can understand. So I'm gonna add this knowledge.
You hear that, Matt? That means we have to start writing the description in our columns.
Yep.
That's a lot of back work to do. Okay.
So now, if I go to knowledge, I have this knowledge. It's still in progress. We need to wait a little bit. In the meantime, let's also explore other areas. Also, okay, so actions. Let's talk about actions. So you remember we mentioned that the user sends an email to us. That triggers agent. Agent will go ahead and look at the user guide for my app, compare the prompt, the user prompt, and the knowledge, and create the answer. And then it will use actions to send email back. So we can create actions here, or if we go to Actions tab here, if I click Add an Action, so we have different actions here. So this is the library. If you want, you can see it here, but new actions, this can be AI prompt, which is very powerful. Maybe next time I can talk about that. It's very powerful. You can use different AI models there. This can be our favorite tool, Power Automate flow. We can create here, and the Power Automate flows that we create in our environment will be here. New custom connector. I'm not really a big fan of custom connectors, but if you look at different connectors and you don't find anything else that works for you, you can create one. Upload a skill from Azure Bot Framework, and you can create REST API. So here, all I need now, come to connector. So first time you click connectors, you will see like limited options here, right? Don't worry, just come here to search box. So to send an email, send an email. So I'm gonna look for send an email of 365 Outlook. Perfect. This is now connecting. Click next. Perfect. So the name, I will typically, if you create the actions, you also need to describe the actions. So I'm gonna just keep the send an email. This operation sends an email with the correct answers from the knowledge sources. Perfect. So authentication is going to be very important here. If you are 3 months ago, I built an agent, I deployed in our SharePoint site. It was fantastic. but people adoption was almost, we had no adoption. People were complaining. Why? Because I asked them to sign in, and that pissed off many people because they are like, we are using single sign-on. Why I need to sign in here again? So we fixed it. Now we see a lot of people using it. So here we have two options. User authentication, you basically force people, hey, every time you open agent, sign in. That's not the best way. Here we have Copilot author authentication. So I'm gonna change that. And inputs and outputs, I wouldn't worry about that much. If you're trying to generate create a list or something, maybe, but in this case, we don't have to worry about it. I'm gonna add an action. Hope our knowledge source is ready so that we can use it. So I'm gonna open this one more time. Okay, so action name, I'll keep it as display name. I'm gonna remove this, just send an email. The description is good. Ask the user before running this. No, I'm good with that. I will keep inputs and outputs as is. I'm saying to. I'm asking the agent dynamically fill with the best option to, like who's the user. Display name, identify as, I will say entire user's entire response. Specify email addresses separated by semicolons. Everything dynamic. And subject, I'm asking dynamically will fill with the best option. So this is the orchestration. I'm saying that figure out, look at my instructions and create the best responses and get back to the user. That's enough for me. I'm gonna click save. One thing really cool about Copilot Studio, you have this nice test panel here. While you are progressing, you can test your agent. And if I go to knowledge, okay, our knowledge source is ready. So now let me ask about what is my app. Perfect. So my app is a software application designed to help users. So it's looking at our knowledge source. And if you look at here, you can see the reference. And here is the, I hope in the future they're gonna fix this. This is not the best way of reading the content, but here is the resource that we can see. And it's using the generative answers functionality. Now, if I ask anything that it's not in the knowledge source, for example, I will ask, tell me about PMI. Because it doesn't have access to PMI. And we are training that, hey, only look at that data source. I don't want other information. Be specific. So in a nutshell, we provided the knowledge source. We provided the action, which when we trigger, it will work. But how can we make this autonomous? We can make this autonomous if we use trigger. Here, I will look at the trigger. So this can be your Teams message. This can be other triggers. So I will say email, when a new email arrives. Katie, let's be honest, which one is easier, building in Power Automate or using these triggers?
I think the trick is you have to know what you need before you get started, right? Because sometimes I'm not sure which trigger I need and I have to fish around. So to start at the beginning, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm sure I would be a lot of curse words in the beginning, but then once you get the hang of it,
yeah.
You haven't had to write any functions yet, so that's nice.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if we want, we can do that as well. So now if I want, like I can add more details, but I'm saying optionally when you receive email from this person, and it already created use content from body of the email, and I can create a trigger.
Maybe we'll have to have you come back towards the open month that I have at the end of the series, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there are a lot of cool features. It's just hard to, you know, fit into like
Yeah.
30 minutes. Now our trigger is ready to test it. We need to send an email. For example, here, not interested. I'm gonna say some. I'm gonna just my app question. I can't log in to my app. Click send. So this should trigger the agent. So let's see. Last refreshed. We can also open this in Power Automate. Maybe that way we can look at here. So basically, when a new email arrives, you can see the details here. It sends this to, it triggers the agent. Oh, succeeded. Yeah, it worked. So let's look at here. Okay, it sent an email. And log in. Even though we couldn't get the action work for now, but the idea here, when someone sends you an email, the agent looks at the user guide we have, generates the response, and sends back to the user. So this is full autonomous. As you can see, we don't have to necessarily check all the time emails. The other thing here, you can, right now we are using GPT-4 model, but if you want, you can use O1 model as well. Enabled, okay, deep reasoning model. So deep reasoning models you can use to get more analytical responses back from the agent. To do that, you need to use deep reasoning models activated. Then you can come back to agent details. In the agent description instructions, you can say, for example, when the user, typically you would add, for example, send a crafted email response to user, you would add here reason, use reason to provide detailed answer, right? When the user asks a question, reason over to provide more details. I can save this. Tell me, and we will see the response here about my app. Now it's looking at our knowledge source, and this is the answer created. If I ask, use deep reasoning.
Well, that too, it prompted you to use deep breathing, and I think that's important right now.
Yeah.
This scenario as well.
So
did you see as you started to type, it says use deep, and it said breathing, which when it's not working, use deep breathing, right?
Yeah. So look at this. If I use the default model, the answer is very simple, very like, you know, tailored. But if depends on your use cases, you can use O1 model as well, which is for more complex scenarios. You can see like the answer that it creates by providing more details. But this has some performance limitations because it takes more time to generate response. So I know we've been talking about this, and I almost consumed the 1 hour. Sorry. Any questions?
I think it's really cool. I can see how there's a lot of use cases for it, right? I think that'd be if automates interaction at the front part when you're trying to describe its flows to you, when you describe its flows and build it for you, this interaction would be better than the Copilot that they have in the front of Automate, I think.
Oh, yes. I mean, yeah, I know. So you mean like using Copilot and Power Automate to create the cloud flows, correct?
Right. When you first describe it, I think this would be better prompting interaction to create the flows that you need. And I wonder, could you use a virtual agent to handle things that are like on the first of every Monday, on the first Monday of every month? Can you?
Yeah,
and it would just build the flow inside of the bot, and it would just wake up every Monday, or what?
Yeah, I mean, you could build flow right now inside the agents, or
Right.
you can, let's say, you can create your own Power Automate flow even within the topic. So let me come here. For example, this is email responder. You can create those automations within agent level or topics. For example, if you come, these are the some topics come from the agent. For example, I can just add here action, and these are all of the flows that I have. If I want new Power Automate flow, and this will take you to Power Automate, which you can create your own flow and then use within Copilot Studio. When you open, you will have already two nodes here. The first one, run a flow from Copilot, where in Copilot, maybe you can define your variables, then here, and then add different, whatever you want, like when an item created, or when a row created, and add all these different different nodes, and then once you are done, respond to the agent.
Okay, great. Like it. Anybody else? I think we do need to wrap up though. But
Yeah,
let's make sure we've got these questions answered. Okay. Thank you, Rafsan. I really appreciate it. We all stayed on, so it must have been interesting. I liked it.
no, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, maybe next time we will have more time that we can do more like real world use cases.
Yeah, and I'll get the trial version so I can build it with you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right.